Welcome to another episode of The Business End. I'm your host, Zedine Semisto, and here on The Business End, we provide real and practical solutions to advance businesses by speaking with experts in the field and existing entrepreneurs. Now, today, our guest on The Business End is a renowned entrepreneur and a philanthropist. He is Joseph Joey Issa, CD, the founder of the Cool Group of Companies, and is a dedicated advocate for Jamaica's economic development. With a career that began in the hotel industry, where he excelled at various leadership roles he would have had at the Super Club Resort, he went on to establish the Cool Group of Companies in 1995. Now, it started with a single gas station in St. Anne's Bay that has blossomed and bloomed into a conglomerate of interests which spans across oil, network marketing, automotive services, and more. Now, recently, Mr. Joseph Issa, Joey affectionately called, was appointed as the Custos of St. Anne, a role in which underscores his deep connection with the parish of St. Anne and his lifelong commitment to public service. Now, he represents the Governor General and promotes civil pride and public order, and of course, the rule of law in his community. Now, help me welcome Mr. Joseph Issa. Welcome, sir, to The Business End. How are you, sir, this afternoon?
Good, thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you, sir. And this is one of the episodes in which I hope our viewers and listeners would feast from and be able to dissect, just having the wealth of knowledge in which you have had and just your years of dedication to development of Jamaica. So let me start it here. You have had a remarkable journey from the hotel industry to forming this cool group of companies. What inspired you to start this group of companies?
Initially, it was wanting to prove to myself that I could do it on my own.
Yes.
And if I, started from scratch, didn't have anything.
Yes.
And that was the initial sort of inkling to start it. And that inkling went away when Shell, in trying to, at the time, first they tried to run us out of business.
Yeah.
And that didn't work. And then they tried to buy us out when we had one gas station.
Yeah.
And so when they put in an offer way back when for 1.3 million,
Yeah.
I felt, yes,
This is it.
I could do it on my own.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, that's the genesis of it.
So you wanted to prove to yourself that I could do it. And in you doing it, you then, where you got the confirmation from was when somebody offered to buy out what you have started.
Correct.
It's most like confirmation that I have reached. I am now a competitor. I am now in the market space, taking that market share in a bit. So they see me as profitable and they want to take a part of it.
And you'd think it was easier because it's me and my last name it would be easier than the average person, but actually, despite me, having done well in college, this being a workaholic, all the positive things you'd see in a person, still had the issues with the bank where they wanted collateral, and I didn't have collateral. They tried to say, boy, get a family member to guarantee it. I said, no, I want to do it on my own.
Yeah.
And so they were inflexible. And we had to use my salary as the income stream to get the first loan to do the gas station. So it was more challenging than it would appear on the surface.
Yes, I am happy that you said that, because a lot of persons, our viewers and listeners might be listening and you're saying, but that is Joseph Issa. He is born into wealth. He has that endowment. What sort of fear or challenge that he would have had? He would just walk into the bank and just take whatever money he wanted.
I wish it were that easy.
I wish it were that easy. And so our viewers and listeners need to understand that regardless of where you are in business, whether you have the endowment or not, what it really requires is that drive to prove to oneself that you can make it. Prove to oneself that there is a vision, there is something that I want to accomplish. And you certainly did that for your journey.
I'll give you another story you'll find interesting. Is we wanted to expand And the banks at the time, it was during the 90s meltdown.
Yes.
So interest rates were, for J dollars, was at 25%.
Yes.
Overdraft at 40%.
Yes.
Unsecured overdraft at 60%.
Yes, almost. Yes, yes.
And the banks, because with a J dollar business, they wouldn't lend in US dollars.
Yeah.
And they'd lend you an unlimited amount in J dollars. And I remember sitting with the BNS and telling them at 25%, there's no way I'm going to go out of business.
Yes.
And trying to convince them to give me US dollar loans, which at the time was 13%.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we have the valuation. And I tried to explain, if you keep 10% of the loan as a backup, if there is a exchange rate movement, because it takes 1 year for the inflation to go through, to feed through. So they wouldn't budge. So to expand and to get the 13%, we noticed that Cool Oasis, the taxi drivers were paying in US dollars.
Yeah.
So I said, see our source of US dollars here. They said, no, that's not sufficient. You have to have like a Cambio or a bank there. Yeah. So we got a Cambio license at Cool Oasis in Dance Bay. And then from that, we would just trade what we needed to service a bank loan. So if we needed 20 grand a month, we'd just do 20 grand. If we needed 50 grand, we'd do 50 grand. And that was then the banks accepted that as, yes, you have now a source of US dollars. Yeah. And then that's how we access 13% money versus the 25%, 40%, 60%.
So the challenge comes, you saw an opportunity and you pivot into that opportunity and able to move your business forward, getting the loan that you wanted. Now, viewers and listeners,
but it wasn't by design, it was by default. It was more, you figure it out as you go along.
Yes, I fully understand. But I just want my viewers and listeners to understand that when challenges come, you can pivot into finding the solutions to ensure that your business is moving forward. You can not accept the challenge as what it is, but you can then pivot and find solution. And in finding that solution, it would help you to propel your business forward, which is exactly what Joseph Issa did. And now we're reaping the rewards of such innovative and creative thinking. Excellent. So I would ask you, you would have grown cool group of companies from a single gas station into this diverse conglomerate. And of course, you would have gone in for viewers and listeners, the different business lines that you have. What are some of the challenges that you had in scaling your business to the magnitude in which it is at right now?
I'd say in the early days, the single biggest challenge is in the first 5 years, if your business is doing badly, it bleeds cash and eats up cash.
Yeah.
But it also, conversely, if it's doing well, it eats cash and uses cash because you need working capital to grow.
Yeah.
So in the first 5 years, I mean, you're living almost from hand to mouth, whether you're successful or a failure.
Yeah.
I mean, many times we had to max out the credit cards and get that to bridge us through, the needs at the time. And then you're tending to also trying to find that one thing that is going to be the success to take care of everything else, you know, and then you have to know when to stop doing that, you know. So it's you're in uncharted territory. You usually you're not experienced, and you just, as I said earlier, you're figuring it out as you go along. You hope for the best. If you make it through, you feel good, and if you didn't make it through, you said, boy, why did I overextend myself or try? Yeah, and you hope to God you make it through, you know?
Yes.
I remember years into it, and an older fella that was guiding and helping me saying, Joey, all of us who have made it in life from scratch have had to have those moments where you effectively feel like you're on the edge of a cliff, hanging on by your fingernails, about to drop off.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a rite of passage to get to the other side.
Get to the next level. Yeah. So, in other words, viewers and listeners, you may be at a point in which you feel like giving up. Mr. Joseph Issa is saying to you, do not give up. You're probably on that breaking point. You're on that edge for open the next door. You're on that edge to manifest what God has given to you to move to the next level. Hold on. Swim. Do not give up. Fly that plane while you build it, and you will definitely see the result at the end of it. Now, we would have noticed, Mr. Issa, that you would have had experience in hospitality, also in retail. Now, we notice that those industries might have differences in terms of structure and just how people will operate in those industries. How have you been able to adapt in those industries and help those businesses grow?
Okay, well, two things on that point. One is the hospitality sector, especially if you get up to the general manager level or the resident manager level. You end up running 40 or 50 businesses in one.
Yes.
Because you have laundry, you have food and beverage, you have housekeeping, which is cleaning. So it trains you not to be afraid of multiple businesses.
Yes.
Now, the flip side to it is what is consistent through all the different businesses that we operate. And I joke to my kids, I can give you a PhD in business in 5 minutes.
Yes.
And it's very simple.
Yes.
If you take the dollars that everybody is chasing, or all of us are chasing, the dollar sign is equal to spending less and selling more. So spend less plus sell more, you should lead to financial success.
Mighty. Say that again for our viewers and listeners. Yes.
Sell more plus spend less.
Plus spending less. Okay. And that will lead you to
success in just about any business that you go into.
Yes. I'm assuming that you would have been able to see the growth of your companies, and you would have been able to see the level of job creation that you would have had and the lives that you would have impacted along the way. How do you approach your human development and just your staff development in a strategic way to ensure that you get the best out of them?
In the early days, people thought that or felt that we gave better service at Cool Oasis compared to other gas stations. And we didn't do the level of training that we did in the hotels because we couldn't afford it at the time. And when I looked at it and thought about it, it often crossed my mind, was it the uniform, the fact that our team members were in blue jeans and wearing these colorful cool shirts? Did we create a sort of scenario that people thought they were getting better service and they were getting the same service like everybody else? But it could have transcended the fact that all of us in Cool wore the same shirts. So no matter who you were, no matter how senior you were wearing the same shirt as a pump attendant. Now, did that instill a certain sense of equality, loyalty, and, we also have a culture where we do try, if somebody has a dire need, we do try to just step in and help. And try and treat the person as we would want ourselves to be treated. But I'm not sure what the answer is. I know in the hotel sector, we did a lot on that front in terms of incentives and so on. We weren't able to do that in Cool because we just couldn't afford it. But we did get, the loyalty, the output, the upbeatness. So maybe it's a culture, the fact, the fact that we are cool and the brand is cool.
Cool.
And that sort of permeated through everything in the company.
Now, I'm happy that you mentioned that, and I want to. There's a rule of thought, or there is a notion that your group of companies followed or reflects Richard Branson's idea of putting businesses, group of companies, making them the best in the particular industry in which they were operating at, not necessarily wanting to be market leaders, but they were able to be self-sufficient and making monies at the margin. And of course, bringing that whole family oriented approach into business. Now, it is rumored that a cool group of companies reflected something similar. And I hear you alluded to it a while ago. Do you think that that approach to business, you would encourage potential business owners to adapt those kind of principles in order to grow their own businesses?
Yes and no, depends.
Yeah.
Yes, we did with Richard Branson. We did take a leaf out of his book, and we did emulate much of what he did and does.
Yeah.
He doesn't sell a product. He essentially sells a lifestyle and a way of life and a way of living. And we did the same thing from a Caribbean perspective.
Yeah.
So if you look at and it starts with the design of the logo.
Yeah.
We originally were focused on Oasis, not on Cool.
Yes.
And it was through running it by different people that Cool became the dominant brand.
Yeah.
And Cool, as simple as it looks, if you look at this C with the O and the L, it's like a happy face looking back at you. So when you look at the Cool brand, you're subliminally seeing a happy face looking back at you, but you don't realize it. So which warms yourself up to the brand. And then the colors that we use, it's 11 different colors that are integrated in a manner that flows. And it ties in the island. If you study it carefully, you'll see the palm tree in every logo. You'll see the island life, plus the fonts are unique to us. So it starts with the logo and then worked its way right through the rest of the company. But to your original point, yes, we did emulate and follow the Richard Branson model. And we've met him since, we've told him, and we tried to see him once a year.
Yes.
And just reinforce
what
he has done and what we've done,
we have done
at both levels.
I'm happy that you mentioned that, because about the old logo and feeling the Caribbean feel of it, because you also have under the cool group of companies, your Bamba Blue, and it also reflects the same kind of notion of relaxation, the trees. You come and we are able to serve you and to let you feel relaxed, take the cares away from you, and you're able to benefit from coming to these locations. Do you care to expound a bit? What were your thinking behind the Bamba Blue experience, and how did it fit into the overall cool group of companies?
Well, that was the Bamba Blue. I mean, for want of a better word, was an anomaly.
Yes.
We didn't get into it because we were pushed into it. A gentleman called Ernest Smart was the one who initiated and nudged us to take it over. The first 2 years I didn't want to operate it, so we had contracted with outside operators to operate it. They were running 80% food costs. And even the last chap, it was a experienced operator out of Kingston, and we gave him the whole operation, food, drink, all the facilities that were there. He just had to pay 3% of sales was the rent. So we just wanted to break even. And he failed. They ran 80% food costs. So our management team at Cool said, Mr. Issa, you're fighting it. Let us take it over and run it. And senior manager went in. The first 2 weeks, the sales doubled. Because at the time they had the paper system and people were just if you didn't reconcile it daily, people were pocketing the sales receipt and money. And so we invested 20 grand in a system called Squirrel that Marriott used, which had the iPads. And when you put in an order, it printed to the kitchen, so you couldn't delete an order once the order was made. And then it had the back end cost control, checks and balances in. And so we were able to turn it around and grow it, and it has grown substantially. So it's become a plank within Cool, but it was never intended.
No intended to be.
It was never intended to be.
Yes.
To be a business of substance. So it has become that,
Yeah.
and but my strength is being an operator. So
Yeah.
give me something to run, and it can find a way to run it well.
Find a way to run it well. So you would have said that you would have used some technologies that you would have known from your previous employment.
Actually, we didn't know it from the previous employment.
Yes.
It was our head of IT at Cool went online and looked at what
Yes.
restaurants used, what systems
Yeah.
they used, and then he found one that Marriott used. So that was actually, we didn't know if it would work or not. It was just based on the referrals that we saw online.
Yes, yes, yes. Excellent. So you would have incorporated then some of the way of operating a business from the hotel industry standpoint, and then you'd have put it inside your group of your Cool group of companies, including the Bamba Blue flagship. But what I want to find out here is that what are some of the other factors that you would have incorporated in your Cool group of companies that would have made it the success that it is, that you would have had from your previous engagements?
It's different in many ways. You'll have, if you were successful here, you'll come in with a successful, positive attitude. But the challenge you have when you're starting from scratch is, one, you don't have cash.
Yeah.
So you can't afford the best talent that is out there.
Yeah.
So you have to find talent or talent with potential and then groom and grow the talent.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy. It's not like a turnkey. I mean,
Yeah.
as good as I was, it took us 2 years at Bamba Blue to get the service right.
Yeah.
And we had the complaints and so on. And the other challenge you have is, as you grow, not everybody can grow with the business because they just don't have the skill set.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with the people who can't grow?
Yeah.
Can you find something else for them to do, or do you have the difficult situation of, trying to find them a soft landing otherwise?
Yeah.
Then you also have the other challenge as you grow, you become attached to the people who are with you in the early days.
Yeah.
And do you see the fact that you have, so it's far more complex. It's a whole, it's almost, I'm trying to say, it's a whole nother set of skills that you need in growing something from nothing to something than going into a business that is fairly established, has good cash flows, you can relatively, afford who you need to afford. So it's one doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be successful in this other situation.
Yes. But you would have entered into various business line in order to grow your Cool group of companies. And I wanted to find out, how do you pick these opportunities? I know you may mention some of them you stumble upon because of the challenges that you had, but I'm sure there might have been a few that came to you and you had to muddle through and make a decision. Do I want to get into that business line? What were some of the stuff that you thought about or looked at in terms of deciding that I need to get into that business line?
There's 3 thoughts come to mind when you throw that out.
Yes.
The first thing is, and something I preach to my kids.
Yeah.
Your greatest strength is to know what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Yes.
Each of us are different, and build around that.
Yes.
That way you'll have a strong team.
Yeah.
Now, one of my weaknesses is I will run into a project or opportunity or business without properly thinking it through. I'm less so now.
Yes.
But in my 20s and 30s, yes. But now it would be likely no. So what was critical for me at the time is to have people around me that would say, have you thought about this aspect or that aspect of it? So I tended to see the glass as half full rather than half. Then once you get into it, the second part of it is, at high school, there was an economics teacher that put a grid on the blackboard.
Yeah.
He put some X's in parts of the grid. And he said, if you want to be successful in life, look at the boxes where there are no X's on it.
Yeah.
Those are the opportunities. If you want to be successful, go after those opportunities. So we essentially, if we saw an opportunity, thought it was an opportunity, we went at it. So I compare it to, so the third part of it is, I say, we went and were fishing in 15 fishing holes. We found that of the 15, 3 were plentiful with fish.
Yeah.
So we discarded of where there were no fish and just focused our efforts on businesses in the 3 fishing holes that had plenty fish.
Yeah.
So where we're at now is, rather than going to anything that is new and unknown, our 3 or 4 strong business units that have the ability to grow and grow for the next 20, 30 years, that's where we focus our efforts on. So we have evolved.
Yes, you have evolved from taking on a mass look on all the business opportunities, and now you would have decided where your strengths are, and you would have said, if any business opportunity come within these barriers, I am going to pursue it. And then you would be able to be maximized because you have already have the structure and the solid persons around you for you to be able to embark on such a journey. So Joseph Issa is encouraging persons out there. If you have your strengths and you have your team, a solid team around you, focus on areas in which you have those strengths for you to build on, rather than you to expend resources into opportunities in which you don't have the know-how and you don't have the skills and the team in order to push your company forward. Now, let's change gears a little bit, Mr. Issa. Now, you have recently been appointed custos for Centan. Now, I'm sure this comes with a huge responsibility. No responsibility is too great for a man of your stature. And I'm sure you have your plans to doing a wonderful work in bringing Centan in which it ought to be. Now, how do you balance, how do you plan to balance this responsibility with all the other businesses that you have?
Well, the part that's not visible is that for all my life, I have dedicated time to public service. So for 20 years, I served on chamber president. A couple of years, I was Kiwanis, Kiwanis Club, GHT, and a host of other civic things I took on. So this is one more. But you know, so you're essentially moving from one set of responsibilities, civil duties to another. I mean, there's a period where I served on 5 government boards and the subcommittee, so that took time. So I've always contributed time to sort of community building, nation building. So this is just the next level of it, and it's a matter of structuring and delegating as you need to.
I need to have that strong team around in order to ensure that you're able to do it. But you see, what some of our viewers and listeners may not know, and this is why I asked this question of you, Sir Issa, because a lot of persons will see that, it's Joseph Issa. That's his reason why they would have, made such an appointment. But they don't see in the background the level of involvement that you would have already done. You'd have already served on many boards. You've already done over 20 odd years in putting your heart, sweat, and tears into the development into this area. And a lot of times I find that business owners, they're just concerned about their business and their little piece or plot of the sector. They are not giving back to the community. And what we want to send the signal or just an advice to business persons who want to take the business to the next level. If you serve your community will serve you. If you put into development of your community, then the community would have be a much more safer place and have more resources, more disposable income to come and service your business. This is one of the mantras of Mr. Joseph Issa, and he's encouraging you to get involved in your community, get involved in building the community that you want to see, and then your community will reward you. More on the business end next week when we speak with Joseph Joey Issa. So here on the business end, of course, I tell you all every single week, you are the best. You are the Business End Show tribe. Literally, you are the best. Now, we can be contacted at the Business End Show for YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and also on Instagram. Now, until next week, you continue to be your increasing best. Thank you.
Master Coach Apostle Courtney McLean and Business Coach Zidane Simister are powered up to share their expertise on the business end. But don't forget to tell a friend or a colleague, and of course have your tools on hand, your notebook and your pen. Classes are in session every Tuesday, 3:30 on Gospel JA for the business end. Master Coach Apostle Courtney McLean and Business Coach Zidane Simister await you.